Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Joel. Today is part 2 of my mixed media extravaganza. If you missed the first one, it's number 52. So this is number 53. It's a 2-part series. But what I'm showing you here is the tape I put around the edges of how we left the canvas in the last video. So I fold the tape over, I tape it down to a fixed object, then back up and start folding the tape over onto itself, keeping it nice and straight. I leave a good 1/4 inch fold over onto itself and then wrap it around and then put several more coats of tape on top of that to give yourself a nice firm berm around the edge. Here's my epoxy catalyst and resin I'll be using today. So I got 2 clear cups here. I'm just going to fill some of each product in each cup, make sure they're perfectly even. Stir that up good. Again, you want some good ventilation with this stuff. It doesn't stink too much, but it's probably not good for you. Alright, so once I have a good portion of each part in a cup, and it's nice and even, I want to dump one into the other to get a relatively full cup of epoxy. So I'm going to dump the resin into the hardener or catalyst, because the catalyst is a little bit thinner. And also, if you have catalyst stuck to the bottom of your cup instead of the resin, you're more likely to have a cleaner mix. So I'm stirring the crap out of this good 10 minutes. I'm going to cut off, and then I went and let it sit for about 15 minutes. A lot of the bubbles go away when you do that. Here we go, dumping it out. Now the main thing about when you're doing these, especially when you got that berm thing, is worry about the edges first. It's really easy to miss an edge, and then you get when you unmask it and you have the finished product, there's kind of a chunk missing there. It's really hard to see where you have dry spots also. I actually turn the lights down and take like a flashlight and look sideways against it, and then you can really spot it, because there's a dull spot. But anyway, I digress. So I'm getting on my epoxy that's mixed now, dumped out on my canvas. I'm going to start spreading it out. So I'm not getting a ton of epoxy on this. This is mainly to seal all the iridescent cellophane and all that jazz, and then it allows me to put an image across the top however you decide to do it. You could paint something by hand, you can stencil stuff, you can roll stuff. I got some funky rubber rollers that roll patterns. It's pretty cool. You can do all kinds of stuff, and then just put more epoxy on top of that. That's the plan. So this is just my base, my background, so to speak. So I'm really worrying about getting all the way up against the edges real good first. And this stuff will level out pretty well on its own. I just get it, relatively close. But just make sure you get up against the edge and don't leave any dry spots. This will probably take 3 layers, so this is the first. Alright, just about done getting this thing spread out real good. I'm going to give it a couple spins real quick. That kind of helps to smooth it out just a little bit. Next step, get out a torch. Be very careful with the torch. The stuff is flammable. You're cool if you keep moving it like I am. This is actual time, actual speed here. Keep moving fast. If you sit in one spot, it will flame up a bit. It's not going to burst into flames probably, or explode or anything like that. Just keep it moving. Be careful. Watch what you're doing. I did edit out quite a bit of the spreading of the epoxy. That was probably took me 2 or 3 times as long. I just want to let you know, so take your time on it. It's the first one's the hardest because it's so rough. So anyway, I cut out a circle the same size. Oh yeah, by the way, this is 24 hours later, so that the first layer of epoxy is set up pretty good. So I cut out a circle, same size, out of a piece of paper, brown paper, that I used for my floor, actually. Now I'm going to use this as a stencil. So I'm kind of looking at it. I cut a little hole in the center and put some tape on it just so it's held in place. Now that I have it centered, that's what I was doing, is eyeballing, make sure I had it close to center. Like I said, this thing is kind of loose. I'm not expecting any perfection. Alright, so I'm masking off this stencil here. It's just a cheap paper stencil I got off of eBay. I just knocked out some of the holes, left the rest of it in there. I'm just using this for the corners right now. Just covering up the rest of the canvas loosely just to eliminate some overspray. I'm going to shoot that corner, and then I'm going to move around the canvas and do all 4 corners. I'll be speeding this up in a second, but I just wanted you to see the first one so you can see how I'm laying it out. Okay, so I took spray paint and shot that first corner. Now I'm masking up the second corner. I'm going to speed this up, but you can see how I do it real easy. This is fun. I like doing this stuff. Kind of instant gratification. So the first stencil step is complete, but I'm noticing some kind of blank areas around the perimeter of that circle, so I'm going to put this back down and get closer with the stencil in a few spots. You can see some blank triangles there around the edge. I want to get rid of those. And I'm going to put a shadow all the way around. Alright, I wanted to get some more definition on the rectangles, so I'm going to take this box here and use it as a straight edge. And I'm going to take my acrylic marker and I'm going to draw some outlines on these shapes. I think that helps a lot. Cleaning up those corners a little bit, but it definitely gives it more depth. And when I put the final coats of epoxy over this design, it will really give it a lot of depth. Alright, what I have here is a 3D printed mandala that I bought online like a year or so ago. It's copper colored. I painted one side of it black. I'm going to embed it in the epoxy resin. I saw someone on YouTube using these things, and that's where I got the idea. I be honest with you, it was so long ago I can't remember who or where I bought these from. I knew I had a bag of them laying around, so I'm going to use this to embellish this pattern. It should be pretty cool. Alright, so I want to add some depth to this rectangle, so I'm masking it off. And I'm going to take my airbrush that I have here. I know everybody doesn't have an airbrush. You could do this by hand, or, I don't expect anybody to duplicate this pattern. But this is how I'm going to do my shading to enhance the depth of the layering from the different layers of iridescent cellophane. The paint I'm using is just Artist Loft Ready to Pour Magenta mixed with some Artist Loft Soft Body Black and some water, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. Got to make sure your masking cardboard or whatever you're using doesn't get too saturated. You'll start smearing stuff around. So that's why I switched to a different one. Okay, that's kind of the desired effect. It's looking better all the time. So I put my cardboard back down. Gonna try to even this out a little more. I missed a spot along the edge, or I think I actually kind of bumped it a little bit. I'm gonna try to smooth that out a little bit on this corner. Alright, so I decided I'm going to have to add lines along the slightly larger rectangle just to even things up. Alrighty, so I masked off everything except for one of the rectangles, and I got the center masked off and everything. Now I'm going to start adding some more of this Asian or Greek pattern with the stencil. And there you have the finished design. Now let's see what this baby looks like with the little epoxy resin on it, shall we? So I got my level out again, double checking, make sure it's as good as I can get it. I got two, I think they're probably 14-ounce cups, probably 12 ounces in each one, mixed up. And again, I start around the edges. You want to make sure you get the epoxy resin around the edges first. I'm kind of mixing up the last little bit in the cup a little better because sometimes the part A and part B are not mixed really well towards the bottom. Alright, I got my epoxy all spread out. Now I'm going to take my 3D printed mandala and set it in the center. Press it down a little bit. Make sure it's at the bottom of the epoxy. It does have a pattern to it, so I want to make sure I have it symmetrical. Obviously, with this pattern I already have going on, I don't want it crooked necessarily. So I saved back some of the epoxy resin. Now I'm just going to dump it over that. Make sure that it's really filled up good. Submerge it. Again, I'm mixing up the tail end in the cup a little bit. I'm going to give it a little spin, kind of spread that epoxy resin out, double check the mandala, see if it's shifted on me. And the last step is taking your torch, popping the bubbles. Once again, do not get too close to the surface with the torch and keep the torch moving very rapidly. I'm picking a chunk of something out of there. This stuff is flammable, as I stated earlier. So keep that torch moving fast and do not stay in the same place. Alrighty, so here's the finished product. Hope you're digging it. Let me know if I need to just stick to the painting. I think it turned out pretty good. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in, especially those of you that watched both videos. That's amazing. I edited this as much as I possibly could and sped it up, but it is time consuming. I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. It's different. I want to thank the Surf Zombies once again for providing the awesome background music. They rock it. You can see some nice color changing there. Hope you guys have fun. Leave some comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't. Also share this with your friends. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks again. I'll see you next week.